Hello and welcome. Today we're thrilled to have Ifeanyi Barbara Chidi, also known as Fifi, on the podcast. Fifi, you're welcome.
Hi, Sachi. Hi.
Fifi is a powerhouse Nigerian writer, director, and producer, and founder of the Crazy Giggle Company. She is known for her groundbreaking work as the creator and head writer of Cheta M, Showmax first Nigerian epic series, and the creator of Diiche, Showmax first Nigerian limited drama series. Her credits also include Crime and Justice Lagos, which won the 2023 AMVCA for Best TV Series. Named one of the 100 most influential people in Nollywood by YNaija and Ebony Life, Fifi's storytelling impact spans over 80,000 minutes of TV. Wow, is that how they measure?
It's one way to measure it.
Including hits like Dilemma, Riona, Slum King, and Our Best Friend's Wedding. She's worked across numerous shows and genres, serving as writer, director, and producer, and her latest miniseries, Please Retweet, where she serves as executive producer, writer, and director, is set to debut in 2024. I hear that timeline.
2025. 2025.
Hopefully, fingers crossed.
2025.
Fifi, you're welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Sachi. It's good to be here.
We're just talking before we hit record how writing your own bio can be narcissistic.
Quite narcissistic.
But I don't know. I mean, we write CVs, right? So if everyone who writes a CV, if everyone writes their own CV, then everyone has some measure.
Which lends to my theory that we are all a little narcissistic. And I think it's when the levels are high and normal that you're now a narcissist. But I believe everybody thinks of themselves as number one. Everybody wants to. Yes, you have people who are selfless, but there's that tiny little thing that where you think of yourself and then you discard it and say, okay, let me help somebody else. But we all have that tiny little narcissism inside of us.
Hopefully we have enough opportunities in our life or in our lifetimes to redeem ourselves, right?
To choose better.
Exactly. Make wise choices. What people see right now is the actual recording, but Fifi and I have spent almost an hour, going on almost an hour,
Wow.
catching up.
That's actually true.
Yeah, we go way back, but it's every day. I'm always proud to see your achievements. The strides you've made in advancing the cause or the mission of the storytelling tribe. Congratulations.
Thank you, Sachi.
So, Fifi, how many years have you been in this industry? How many years would it be now?
We're going on a decade, and that's lovely. We're going on a decade. Actually, I think it's more than a decade because I used to step my feet in. I just step my little toe in Nollywood and then run. So, but when I stopped running in 2014. In 2014 is actually when I stopped running from Nollywood. But before then, I used to I'll do something, it won't work out, I'll run away. I made a whole film. Well, I wrote 2 parts of a film. It was supposed to be some international production. That's how the producer sold it to me. It was supposed to be like some Senegal, Gambia, Sierra Leone, and they actually made it. There were 2 parts. I remember that I saw the trailer. Desmond Elliott was in it. This is way back when. This is like 2010, and it was cool to do. But when it was time to get paid,
yep,
it wasn't cool. It wasn't cool at all. It wasn't cool. The producer wasn't in Nigeria, so I had to go to. And he was doing like this Western Union money transfer. So I went to the bank a couple of times, and I'll go to the bank and I'll go to the teller and he'll tell me, oh yeah, go get your money. And I'll go to the teller and The teller will look at me and say, they did not send any money. I did this a couple of times until I got frustrated. I'm like, is this how this industry is? I'm not doing it again. And I ran away. That's one of the times I ran away.
Well, here you are.
Yeah, 10 solid years in.
Yep. And, going strong as well. But, from what you've seen over the last 10 years, how would you say Nollywood has evolved? I mean, when we're talking, a lot of people like to use the days of, or rather, living in bondage as a benchmark or a marker. Yeah, as a marker for the time that Nollywood took a turn for the better, hopefully. But how would you say, it has evolved, and, what impact do you think it has had on African storytelling?
So Nollywood has grown. It has grown in leaps and bounds, and I know that a lot of people might, because of a lot of comparison with other film industries, might not be able to notice how much this industry has grown. But those of us who are deep in it, we know how much it has grown. It's so much different from when I started. So I started in television, and I've been in television for a while, and different things have changed, like production quality, like attention to detail. So many things are changing while some things are remaining the same, but you can see the growth, right? So I think comparing to other industries is what's getting us in the we shouldn't be comparing to other industries, because those industries have been there for a very, very long time. I feel like if you look at our industry and look at the age and look at our track record, it's actually, the industry is growing, it's evolving, the production quality is getting better, the pictures are getting better, the trainings are getting better. People are actually looking for trainings to step into Nollywood. You want to be trained, you want to know how to do it. It's not just pick up camera and shoot, and that's impressive. Yes, some things have remained the same, some things are worthy of calling out, but we're getting there. We'll get there. We're getting there.
And you would say that the quality of stories have been better since, or are better for it?
So this actually is a it's
yeah, I feel you're trying to looking for political correctness here.
Yes, I'm looking for political, because I'm a storyteller at my core, and I have to defend all storytellers. So storytelling is getting better, just not as quick or as fast or as explosive as it should be, but it is getting better. The fact that we can look at a story and say it is not a good story is an improvement. The fact that we can actually call out stories and say, oh, this is not a great story, oh, this is what should have been done better, I feel like that is an improvement. The fact that we're actually now looking for stories and saying, oh, is this story good or not, that's an improvement. It's not, I don't think it's something that we really cared as much for in the past. We just watched the story over as a whole, but now people are actually looking for good stories, and that is an improvement. Would I say the stories are better? So right? So on television, for example, storytelling is king. So on TV, I would say that stories have been getting better. Overall in Nollywood, I would say so. I can't say it's better, and I can't say it's worse. So.
Okay, so typically when I have guests, I always kind of like listen for what's everyone is, each of my guests are different, but one thing that distinguishes them is usually something like their North Star or their values. There's always something that someone is always they always have something back of their head that they always use as a guide whenever they are making decisions, or even guiding their perspectives around the storytelling, or the quality of stories that they tell, or their philosophies around storytelling. But so I want to get a good sense of yours, and I want to do this in a little bit off the cuff manner.
Trick me.
Not trick you, honestly. I'm not. I know I'm not going to I'm not going to I wouldn't do that. You're my guy. All right. So let me ask this very, very simple, direct question. What two movies would you say are stuck in your head as benchmarks when you're making a movie or when you are evaluating a story? I'm
I've
saying
been asked this question a lot. I've not posted a lot recently.
So I'm asking two because I'm going to say one from Africa or one from Nigeria, and then one off the, offshore.
So a Nigerian story I would tell you is Violated by Amaka Igwe. An African story I would tell you is Rafiki. And an international story, I would always answer this question: The Sound of Music. The Sound of Music, The Sound of Music, The Sound of Music, because it had everything. So yes, those are when I say storytelling. So Amaka Igwe, love her, adore her. She started a movement for me when I watched Checkmate, and I realized that she wrote and directed it. I'm just like, yep, that's me. Violated was such a beautiful story. I know that anytime you say Violated in any room where there's a Nigerian, they're like, oh my god, because it's a story that just resonated. I think as a child, the two films that I would say stuck with me were Violated and When the Sun Sets. I don't know if you've seen When the Sun Sets. It had Kate Henshaw. Those two films, I can even still remember, as I'm talking to you about When the Sun Sets, I can still remember the soundtrack in my head, When the Sun Sets. So those two films were storytelling at its core, at its best, like just presenting the story, like take it. Rafiki, because it's a thematic story, right? It was a story for its time. It challenged, like it was brave. Rafiki is a very brave story, and I know a lot of people shy away from telling stories about sexuality and all of that, but for its time, like, stories should reflect the times. Stories should be brave enough to challenge the times, to look policies in the eye and say, okay, this is a story. I'm not trying to be politically correct, I'm just trying to tell a story. And that's something that Rafiki did. The Sound of Music. The Sound of Music has everything you need. It has romance, it has drama, it has thriller, it has musical, it has what do you want. The Sound of Music has all of it. So those stories in particular, if I want to ever hit a benchmark, it's them. It's them.
So you were right. It was a trick question.
Yeah, I know. I know.
Because I wanted to hint at some niggling feeling that there is some kind of spark you might have gotten from having interacted with Amaka Igwe. And I just wanted to ask, could you speak to a little bit about her legacy, what all rest of so her contribution to the industry and also to African storytelling.
So one of the saddest things in my life is that the fact that I never got to meet her, and it's the woman was a powerhouse. She was a powerhouse. She left such a legacy, especially for women in the Nigerian film industry, and it impacted me so much that I wrote my thesis on her when I was doing my master's. She opened doors that when you say elders walked so that the young ones can crawl, like she opened doors that those of us coming didn't know that they needed to be open for us. I feel between her, Lola Fani Kayode, like these are women who operated in male-dominated industry and excelled. Like you can't call any of Amaka Igwe's work and say, oh, I have forgotten about it. No, all the things that she did stood through time, can stand the test of time, that in 2040, somebody says, oh, they want to watch Checkmate, they can actually watch it and say, oh wow, this is a story. She created, it's like the building blocks for those of us who enter the industry after her, not just as young filmmakers but as women, are able to stand on. We are standing on her shoulders. We're standing on her shoulders. Especially when I create TV shows, I realize that, oh, I am following a pattern of women that have come before me. Amaka Igwe created, directed, wrote, and produced Checkmate. Like, it's amazing what these women did in a time where a lot of women in the industry were doing other things. We're doing softer skills, we're doing makeup, we're doing costuming, we're doing. She opened that door. And that's why women come into the industry now and say, oh, they want to be producers, they want to be cinematographers, they want to be directors, because women like Amaka Igwe opened that door. And we'll forever be grateful for that door being open. She opened it and then she used her leg to hold it open. She didn't close it behind her. And we'll forever be grateful for that.
I see that they've, since we've had remakes and remakes of Rattlesnake since then, and even Spools and whatnot, and it's marvelous to see how our legacy lives on, even in the progress and the achievements of female women filmmakers that have come after her, including yourself. But talking about authenticity in Nigerian stories, especially as portrayed by Nollywood, what would you say, besides funding, what would you say stands out as your top challenge that filmmakers face?
Stories.
Not enough or too many?
So when you say authenticity, right, I worry about the term authentic African storytelling, because what is it? Some of our experiences are are human experiences, right? We don't necessarily have to show, like, I usually question and probe the term authentic African storytelling, because what is it? I go through things that somebody in the Caribbean can be going through, someone in the Dominican Republic can go through. Stories are universal. Stories are universal. Emotions are universal, and stories sell emotions. I feel one of the things I might lean into to remain authentic are things like way of speaking and manner of speaking, right? So if we weren't on this recording and we were just gisting, you and I wasn't trying to be so formal, at a point, there are some terminologies, some phrases, some language you can even go into, and it's one of the things I try to hold there. I'm very, very into culture and sharing culture, which is why shows like Riona exist, shows like Diiche exist, and some of the other shows that I'm working on. I'm very, very big on sharing my culture with the rest of the world. So even if I'm doing a contemporary story, right, the way our parents speak sometimes, a lot of the time, not even sometimes, is they start off in English and then they've gone into language. They don't send you. Whether you understand or you keep replying them in English, that's your business.
Yep.
So just little things like that lend to the authenticity of dialogue, right? Where we know that our parents don't complete sentences in English. In fact, they will insult you in English, Igbo, Pidgin. They will so little things. So those little nuances, right, are what I think lend to authenticity. Also showing things as they are, because for a long period of time in our industry, we tended to show pretty pictures, right? So rich man's houses, rich man's stories, and I think some of the indie filmmakers, a lot of their films show things as they are, right? So if you see, for example, for Maria Ebunpataki, nobody bothered about making the place look pretty. And it's one of the things I loved about the production. right? The bathroom was the bathroom. Like the bathroom was like any bathroom you can find in Bagada. No, not Bagada, in fact. Let's go to Shomolu. Any bathroom you can find in Yaba, right? The living room was the living room, right? It just reminds you of, oh, this is like the house I grew up, or this is like my uncle's house. Not everybody has the Banana Island house and the Lekki Koi feel. And those stories are important, and those places are important as well. But there needs to be a balance between showing that and then showing short films like Bariga Sugar, and showing films like For Maria, showing films like Juju Stories, where the picture is pretty, but the place is not particularly not inauthentic, because Banana Island is authentic to Banana Island, right? But there's a balance between showing those stories and not even those stories, that story environment, and then the story environment of the teacher who teaches a secondary school, and her wage, like what her wage can afford. Like there are stories that can be situated in that place as well, that would be as engaging as the stories of the rich and the high rollers. So just providing a balance, I feel, leads to authenticity. So dialogue, balance in what we're showing, in the stories we're telling. So yeah.
All right. Awesome. I mean, I agree. And you know, I think because more or less it's the question of authenticity actually, you know, stems from these concerns about, you know, we have these movies that we love, movies that we also wish could have been better, or the ones that we just outright don't even want to engage. You know,
it didn't happen.
That didn't happen. But you know, there's a flip side to those the stories that do shine through for their authenticity. And you know, the problem with success is it can be repeated. You know, something that can be repeated, if it can be scaled, it can be repeated. And repetition actually leads to stereotype, more or less. I imagine stereotype in the sense of an actor's capacity to deliver, and also stereotype in terms of the kinds of stories that are being told repeatedly.
Right? I feel like we're falling a little bit into that trap now. If you notice, there's an influx of epic storytelling in Nollywood right now. So everybody is telling an epic story. So everybody seems to be it's a formula that seeming to like we're copying, right? and people might not realize that they are doing it, but you would scroll through streamers now and you will be like Ladugba, Lakiti, and there are 3 different films, and they are all epic. And I know that there are waves, right? Sometimes they're just in a wave, but I feel like it lends, especially because we can tell a lot of stories. And this is coming from somebody who has written 2 epics and participated in the writing of 1, right, for television. But there are other stories out there. I feel like the copying, because 1 epic was a hit, right? And you're like, oh, if it's not broken, break it, or if it's not broken, just do it again. Repeat the formula. I feel like it doesn't do us any favors. It doesn't do us any favors as storytellers and as filmmakers.
So I'm not even thinking. While I'm cognizant of, you know, the trend right now on, you know, the streamers and what everybody can probably obviously just see at a glance. But I remember a time when they used to, I don't know, you saw Igodo.
Yes.
I felt Igodo was great, right? I was like, wow, you know, I mean, it's like,
it was one of the best epics we have. It still is, storytelling wise.
But it kind of started the trend as well. Even then, for a lot of other people, I mean, it was like,
oh well, So things are cyclical, right? I believe because there was actually a time in Hollywood that it was just romance, love stories. Genevieve is loving RMD in this film, then in love with RMD again in this second film, then Omotola and Ramsima, and then so it was so yeah, it's a thing we go through in our industry. It's a thing we go through.
I am reminded of a story that comes from, right, more like an excerpt from an interview that Stan Nze had actually shared after his success on Tinsel. He was playing a character, and he found that being successful in that character, or successfully portraying that character on that show, made it difficult for him to actually demonstrate to new film producers that he's actually capable of doing so much more and something else. I mean, so I think about that when
that happens, but I don't think it's
so I think about that when I want to ask, how do these stereotypes affect character development in cinema, and what can people do to address that?
So it's a sad thing that happens, and I'm not sure it just happens. No, I'm not sure. I know it doesn't just happen in our industry, right? It happens across industries, across the world. So an actor is really good in a role, and then he ends up playing that role in different versions. I think I was listening to a podcast yesterday. Lupita Nyong'o was on Trevor Noah's podcast. And she talked about how after 12 years a slave, she got another role to play in Nigerian Maid. And it's a normal human reaction, right? When you're like, oh, who can play this role? The person that played it in this thing, why don't we call her? And it's normal. When it affects how it affects characterization, I feel like people need to be deliberate, right? It's a little lazy to and I know that we're playing it safe, right? You need to make your money back. So if you saw Funke Akindele in Omogeto, the next time you want to make a ghetto film, and Omogeto was so successful, next time you want to make a ghetto film, you would want Funke Akindele because she's part of the formula that made that film so successful. Now, we need to be open to risk. And risk is easy to say, it's not easy to face. We need to be open to risk. We also need to be open to growth. I feel like challenging roles, makes actors grow. Now, challenging writing makes writers grow. Yeah. So you don't throw all the stereotypes in your characterization. You build your characterization, one, based on the story you are telling, and two, based on who you believe that character to be. Not all touts are only touty. Especially if you just go to Lagos Island, right? I remember when I was 7, I met someone in Ogun State, in a place called, what's the name of that place that Funke Akindele said she was in when she was in Jennifer? The place where Jennifer is from. I went to that place. Real place. It starts with A.
Jennifer
Ayetoro. So I got thrown to Ayetoro because there were elections at the time and we had to go and do census. So I went to Ayetoro. And I met a tout that was unlike any tout I had ever met in my life. This guy was actually deported from the USA. He had an accent.
Oh, wow.
He had stories for days. He used to live in Alabama. He had stories for days. But he was a tout. He was a tout who was, when elections are going on and they're just like, he was a tout. But he was talking about how he was in America for 11 years. 11 years. 11 years. And I'm like, this man has just like layers and layers of depth. But if you portray him as just a tout, you're missing out an opportunity for your character to be a full individual.
Yeah.
So if writers are not lazy and build their characters as full individuals, it helps your characterization. Also, if producers are not lazy and now don't decide that, oh, tout, let's give it to this person. Oh, fine girl, let's give it to this person. Oh, lover boy, let's just call this person. If we all put in efforts not to be laissez-faire about the work, I feel like it will get better. So it's intentionality.
Yeah. I mean, I could hang on. I could hang on to the intentionality in terms of the approach in engaging artistic talent. But how do you balance your commercial success? Because hey, you got to pay bills. So the commercial success and artistic integrity. When you're making your productions, do you compromise one or the other, or both? How do you do?
So I won't lie, sometimes you have to create a balance, right? And I feel like that's something that YouTube might be giving people, right? Where they have one star and then a lot of people that you haven't seen yet, or people that are waiting for their time in the sun. You might need to create a balance between artistic integrity and commercialization. So, and this is me being realistic now. I can't, if I want to make a TV series and I want to sell it to a streamer, for example, I already know. I want to make a film and I want to put it in the cinemas. I already know. Even YouTube, right? YouTube has their stars. That if this person is not on the project, people won't click. Right? Imagine making a YouTube film with people that people don't know yet. So what people do on different platforms is put that person and then introduce new people. So create a balance, right? So that those new people have their time in the sun, and you're also using that person for the commercialization.
Yeah.
So it's to create a balance. And I know that it's easy to say and tougher to do, especially when you see the cinema numbers and you're like, if I put 10 people that are cinema that pull people to the cinema, I would make my money faster than I put one person that pulls people to cinemas and 9 people that nobody knows. So it's tricky for now, because I know that in Hollywood they have different grades of movies. So some of the movies you'll see the stars, the Angelina Jolies, and you'll see them. Yeah. And in some of the movies you'll see people that you do not recognize, and those films are actually good. Netflix has opened me up to watching some of those films. Those films are actually good, but you don't recognize any of the names, but they are good films. And I know that they are graded in Hollywood, and maybe that's something that we might be open to at some point in time over here. But just creating that balance between artistic integrity and commercialization, it's helpful. You can't ignore commercialization altogether, because money is important. If you put money in a project, you want to make your money back, so it's important.
Well, it's really important. It's interesting you mentioned YouTube, because recent, over the last 2 years, over 2 years now, I think, we've seen kind of some trend where you have independent producers, even actors who are now turned producers in their own rights, taking to YouTube as their main production platform or distribution channel for their works, and not overly reliant on the big streamers, Netflix, Amazon, to fund their projects. And I mean, how would you say that's an overly good thing? Is that a good thing for the industry, for Nollywood? What do you think?
It's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. It contributes to the growth of the industry, right? So people are making money, and people are getting jobs. So you wouldn't say it's a bad thing that a cinematographer has constant work, or that a gaffer has constant work, or that a DOP has constant work. or that a production assistant has constant work. It leads to the growth. It contributes to the growth of the industry. So it's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing that actors who have to audition over and over and over to get a role in what I would call mainstream Nollywood can depend on YouTube as a backup. It's not a terrible thing. One, stories are being told, films are getting made, and films are getting seen. I was having this conversation this morning, and we're comparing some of the channels and how overnight, 1 week, they have 1 million views, and you're like, oh, people are watching Nollywood. And that's not a terrible thing. That's a great thing. And it's also opening us up to international audiences that usually wouldn't see us. There was this controversial series, I think it's called My Sunshine. Am I allowed to mention?
Yes.
The Korean Nigerian series. And a lot of people were saying, have you seen it?
Yes.
Have you seen it?
Yes.
A lot of people,
yeah.
A lot of people were saying derogatory stuff, right? They were saying, oh my God, this is such a shame. We're so embarrassed. It's so embarrassing. And then the Koreans found it. And the Koreans started saying, oh my God, they understand our language. Oh my God, they understand our culture. Oh my God, it got on Korean television. I don't think so. There's a line that says no publicity is bad publicity. I don't think it's a bad thing for. I don't think it's a bad thing for us. Yes, you can look at the lapses and say, oh, the story could have been better. Oh, the production quality could have been better. Oh, but this is somebody who was audacious enough to do a thing.
Yes.
I don't ever see it as a bad thing. I don't see audacity as a bad thing. I don't see growth as a bad thing. I don't see opening ourselves up to other countries and other cultures as a bad thing. So no, YouTube is great. YouTube is great for us because another thing is it's also a place for people to work, right?
Yeah.
Because the more you do in this industry, the better you get. So the more you produce, the better you get. The better you are at producing. The more you write, the better you are at writing. The more you direct, better you are directing. And then YouTube provides a platform for people to do that over and over and over and over and over again and get better at it. It's like a learning platform because as you're doing, you're learning what to do and what not to do next time. So it's beautiful for our industry. YouTube, beautiful for our industry. People should carry go. 2 thumbs up.
I'll put that in the trailer.
Better behave.
Okay, so that was well put because next thing I was going to ask is how how Nollywood a monster as it is, a force to be reckoned with. How has it influenced cultural narratives and societal perceptions in Nigeria and beyond? You already hinted at it with some of these works that probe very delicate issues or trends.
So this is tricky. So I feel like Nollywood has affected culture here and also affected culture across the world. I know that Afrobeat and music is doing more to push the culture outside, but Nollywood is doing that part. I remember the time when just a little thing like Ake and Papa being memes on Twitter and everybody was using them. And I mean, not just Nigerians, I mean, everybody across the world. And those memes made people across the world start seeking out Nollywood content. They were not finding the great stuff. They were finding, it's not like it was bad stuff, but they were finding the old stuff. They were finding the older material and saying, oh my God, what kind of industry is this? They were laughing, but they were watching. So I'm a proponent of at least you saw it, right? And it's also affecting culture here. I remember a TV show that we did, Riona. Riona was set in Ishekiri culture. And it was set at a time, it was such a beautiful time because it was set at a time where the Ogiame, the real king of Ishakiland was about to be crowned. And I remember when the coronation was happening, I actually cried because people were calling on Twitter, people understood the culture, people were saying, people were chanting, people understood Ogame, so like they were participants in a culture that they knew nothing about before the television show. And it was wild for me. I think that was one of my best moments as a television writer. I felt like God. Like it was amazing. Like, and that's the point of content, right? The point of content is to teach, to educate, to edify, to let people know that you and I are not that much different from each other. That you and I might have different cultures, but you and I are the same, right? And that was a moment that showed. Even afterwards, I think after the show, and it wasn't because of the show. I know it wasn't because of the show. I'd like to think it was because of the show, because of a little narcissism, but it wasn't because of the show. But after the show, because the show was the show portrayed the separation between class structures in Ishakiri land. There were the Omajaja, who were the high class, and the Otonlu, who were the royals, and the Reales, who were the lower class. And after the show, was an announcement by the king that said that there was no longer, he was dismantling. And I know Shakiri people will say that that structure hadn't been in effect for a while, but there had never before that time been any decree to say that they were dismantling that class structure. And he got out and he got the degree to say he was dismantling the class divide. And to me, it was a hallelujah moment, because yes, I like to believe that it was because of the show, and I know Shakiri people say it's not because of the show, but I like to believe that it was because of the show, that it was at the back of his mind or present in his mind to make that decree. And that was just a moment of, oh, TV reflecting on culture, reflecting in real life, and affecting culture. And then to the world, right? So we have the jollof rice phenomenon, we have the Ashwebi phenomenon, we have the, so we are showing our culture, and the rest of the world is embracing it with open arms. Like, being African is in vogue right now. Like, you see people trying fufu and egusi, you will see people trying pounded yam, like being it's yes, assume peppered goat, like people are into it, and it's because of, yes, it's because that culture has been packaged,
yes,
and shown to the world in different ways. With Nollywood, with our music, we're exporting our culture, and it's lovely. It's lovely.
It's beautiful to see.
It's so beautiful to see. It's so beautiful to be a part of. To say, oh, because of something I did, people are embracing. And what happens when people embrace culture? People embrace other people. You embrace people that are different from you, that you once considered strange, right? Because you've now gotten used to that thing you considered strange. It's easier to embrace, and we're going to do it. We're going to take over the world. We're going to do
awesome. I'm here for it. Thank you so much, Ify. But before we go, we have a section, or the segment of this show where we have rapid fire questions for our guests.
Oh no!
I didn't prepare you for this.
Oh no! Oh no!
But don't worry, they're fun, so you can relax. No tricks here. No tricks, I promise.
Okay.
All right. What's your go-to comfort food?
Chocolate.
What? That's not food. Don't let my kids hear that.
Chocolate. My go-to comfort food is chocolate. To be honest, it's chocolate. Okay. It's Milo and biscuits. So you just it's chocolate. It's chocolate.
It'll be a while before they see this podcast. So no problem.
I'm a bad influence on your children.
If you could have dinner with any historical figure, who would it be?
I don't like this question.
Oh, why?
Because there's so many.
Oh, okay. That. Okay. Sorry.
We'll would it be? Huh?
Nothing.
What?
No, no, no. I thought you were
Not
going to
typically.
be, but now it seems as if you have too many to, you know. So yeah,
Yes,
that's
because would it be bad to mention like 7?
mentioned two, top two.
um,
But even if they're not ranked, that's fine.
and Frank and Van Gogh.
Okay. All right.
Yes, I would have said Hitler, but just because I want to get into his mind. But and Frank and Van Gogh. I actually want to sit with a villain, and I would have said Hitler, but and Frank and Van Gogh.
Hitler. That wasn't disturbing at all. It wasn't. No. It's fine.
You weren't expecting Hitler.
No.
You weren't expecting Hitler. But Frank. I said Anne Frank, not Hitler.
Yes,
I said Anne Frank.
I feel inspired. Thank you by your choices. Thank you so much. And yet, still irrevocably disturbed by that suggestion. But that's fine.
Delete Hitler. I said Anne Frank. Rewind. Delete.
It's out there now. Yeah, no problem. Next one: beach or mountain?
Did you say beach or mountain?
Yes.
Beach. I'm afraid of heights.
Huh? All right. Favorite book that impacted your life?
I don't know about impacted my life, but the first book I read In and Ebony by Ifeanyi was the first adult book I read, and I was 9 or 8, and it was the first. It did impact my life because it introduced me to stories. Right before then, I'd been reading Enid Blyton and all the simpler stories and Nancy Drews, and I thought I was reading stories. But when I read Cain and Abel, the president's daughter. No, yeah, Cain and Abel. Shall we tell the president and the quiver full of arrows? I think back to back.
Okay.
And it was my first introduction to this type of storytelling that looks like a telenovela, where there's this story strand, and then this story strand, and this dramatic thing happens, and this. So Jeffrey Archer's books and Harold Robbins' books introduced me to proper storytelling.
Nice. What's a skill you've always wanted to learn but haven't had the chance to yet?
Play the guitar.
Guitar. Nice. Okay.
Also draw. That one. Drawing.
Really?
No.
Don't
Yeah,
draw.
the drums. So when I played the guitar, I wanted to drum. So I used to play the saxophone. I think if you still gave me the instrument, I would know what to do with it. But I also wanted to learn how to drum, and I also wanted to learn how to play the guitar. I couldn't play the keyboard because my fingers were not the type. So play the guitar, play drums, and draw. But drawing, I've given up on it because I don't have the talent, and you have to have the talent, or else you're wasting your time. so yeah, play the guitar, play drums.
Awesome. Ify, this was fun. And I mean, that we've been talking for longer than whatever timestamp anybody might be looking at right now, and it still feels like we could go on and on and on and on.
This was fun.
This was fun. We need to do it again. But I want to thank you for your time. I want to thank you for your generosity, sharing your experience and your insights. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sachi. It was fun. It was fun to be here. Bye.